No, Arizona was
I call to order the March 2023 legislative meeting of Media Borough Council. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks all who have joined us this evening. This is a night that oftentimes is particularly poorly attended because it is the start of the NCAA men's basketball tournament. But we're all here, and a few others are here have joined us. We have a few housekeeping matters as usual. 3 sets of meeting minutes. We have a workshop meeting from our past, this past month. Do I hear a motion to approve those meeting minutes as submitted?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any call for discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the February 2, 2023 workshop meeting minutes as submitted, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes unanimously. Excuse me. We also had a special meeting this past month, and that, of course, occasions a set of meeting minutes. Do I hear a motion to approve the meeting minutes for the special meeting of February 11?
So moved.
Is there a second on the motion?
Second.
Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the February 11, 2023 special meeting minutes, please, as submitted, please say aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes unanimously. And the last set of meeting minutes from this past month were for our legislative meeting. Do I hear a motion to approve those as submitted?
I'll make a second.
We need a first.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to move that motion.
Okay, we got a first. Do we have a second?
Sorry.
Second.
Any discussion concerning the motion? Hearing no call for discussion. All in favor of approving the February 16, 2023 council meeting minutes as submitted, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes unanimously. We have, as we always do, public comment and privilege of the floor both at the beginning of the meeting as well as at the end of the meeting. First, we will see if we have any email comments or questions. Karen Rapino, can you please guide us through the questions that have been submitted?
I would love to guide you. Let's see. I just have one that I received by email. Skip Shuda, North Lemon Street. I am writing in support of the community choice aggregation. As a resident of Media Borough and a subscriber to the energy, I guess it's co-op's alternate energy program, I would like to see our borough powered by clean energy. Imagine a community powered by sun, wind, and water. By having our borough participate in this program, we can help make such a dream reality. By aggregating our resources, we can make it affordable for all residents to purchase clean energy. I hope that this is one step towards reaching a carbon neutral city by 2030. Furthermore, as president of Transition Town Media, I raised this issue at our recent steering meeting. Transition Town Media would like to voice its support for the CCA initiative as well since it stands for a more resilient and sustainable community. Thank you for considering adopting this change for Media Borough.
Thank you, Mr. Shudo. Is there anybody who's present who wishes to address council at this time? Please come to the microphone, tell us who you are, where you live, and what's on your mind.
Hello, I'm Julie Smith. I live at 810 North Olive Street. First, I do also support the community choice aggregation. I agree completely with Skip Shuda. I didn't see it on the agenda, but I wanted to bring it up as far as the 3rd Street. I wasn't sure if it kind of fit under another category. So I just wanted to express my thoughts on that. There's 4 reasons why I think that the 3rd Street should become a pedestrian and bicycle pathway only. Ecologically, it will have the least impact on Gled Providence Park, which has become our absolute gem of this borough, the only place where we have actual woods that we can walk through, and we need to save every last tree we can and every last natural resource that we can. So the pedestrian and bicycle pathway would only have the least amount of impact. The exhaust and the stormwater runoff and the fuel and salt application on a roadway would impact the creek, and it would also impact wildlife. If you go down Orange Street at the end of that green belt, there's often wildlife that's been struck by cars. So having a roadway through there would impact all of the wildlife as well. The 3rd Street entrance I find as the quietest part of the park. You walk through, and you begin that path, and it feels like you walked through a door. I often hear owls over there. I can hear the creek. The silence is healing. Whether humans know it or not, we need that. You can hear the rustling leaves, the stream, and the sound of the birds. If traffic was going by, we'd lose that place and the sense of peace. Our yards are loud right now. It's becoming busier and busier with traffic and yard equipment, so we just need that escape for our mental well-being. So for another reason, safety, it would be another cut-through street. I live through a cut-through street, and I've heard numerous other residents talk about living on cut-through streets, and the borough is struggling with trying to calm the traffic. It seems to be a real struggle, and 3rd Street has both a park entrance and a pool entrance with many pedestrians of all ages as well as people on bikes. So if that's a roadway, it would be a public safety concern. Financially, I'm not clear how borough residents would benefit from having it as a street opened up to traffic. There seems to be no problem with our town being busy most of the time. And for decades, people have figured out alternative ways to get into the borough that only cost minutes. Making our community pay for a bigger project that doesn't benefit our community doesn't seem right. It may even encourage visitors to walk and bike rather than drive in, and that would be even better for parking. And then finally, it fits in with the open space plan. I looked over it, and it creates a more bicycle-friendly community, it conserves more open space, and it could be a dynamic public space rooted in nature and a prudent fiscal management. And if you go to Wissahickon Park, there are numerous streets that have been ended, and they use the roadway to be bridges that cross the Wissahickon Creek, and it just makes it a really cool environment, so it would be a neat place for our borough. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Robin Lasserson, 342 West 4th Street. I support everything that Julie said, and I was encouraged at the workshop meeting by my sense of the direction the council might be moving to develop the 3rd Street connection as a pedestrian and bicycle-only parkway. Just to give some perspective, from the beginning when park and neighborhood advocates got involved on the 3rd Street issue, there were always 2 goals, and one was to stop the dam to prevent the damage from the park, but the other was to develop that bridge as a pedestrian and bicycle-only greenway and to prevent automotive traffic from disrupting what had naturally evolved into that park-like area and that green belt. And back in 2012, 550 petition signatures were presented to the council, asking that it be developed in that manner. And then later that same year, the Community Advisory Council conducted a public opinion poll, which showed the majority of residents supported the pedestrian and bicycle-only option, which Brian raised at the workshop. And then, as Liz pointed out at that same meeting, the more recent polling, really just from last year in the open space report, confirmed that now an even greater majority of people support that, presumably for all the reasons that Julie articulated so well. So, I mean, it's more economical, it's more ecological, it's more popular, and to the point that Paul brought up about traffic engineering, I'm not sure where that stands with the discussion about getting another opinion, but I do recall what Kevin said about the traffic engineer who had sort of conducted an overview of the traffic and our road system in the borough and sort of hadn't proactively brought the need for an automotive road there now or in the future. That says something, I think, and I don't know that spending more consulting fees, to get another opinion about it is necessary. And then Addie had said in public comment to Lisa's point about the school district having voiced previously concern about gas savings and bus routes, that really, the future is electric buses for the school district. And so it seems like the barriers are falling, and the way is near for the park users and the neighbors to get what we've been advocating for since 2011. And I just hope that we can keep that ball rolling in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to address? We do have other takers.
Wasn't going to. Linda Emery, 345 West 2nd Street. I actually have a request, which is that as we begin to revisit the 3rd Street project in a very purposeful way, that council sort of explain their approach in terms of whether a specific committee is going to be addressing it, whether council as a whole is going to be addressing it, how we might see it reflected in the agenda, how we will know if there's been action in between meetings, how we will know if we should be brought up to date or participate in the next upcoming meeting. So that would be really helpful. There's going to be a lot of moving parts, and it would be nice to see that reflected in agendas going forward, even if it was to say no action has taken place, but otherwise to fill us in. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else wish to address council at this time? I expect that we might see something on a forthcoming agenda, but as I understand it, not all the paperwork has been signed yet. Until it's done, we have to wait until it's all done. The judge has not signed the stipulation.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify. It has been submitted to the court. It's awaiting the judge's signature.
I don't know that it has been submitted to the court yet. But it is nothing that we have done or failed to do that is holding anything up. We just need to wait until the papers get signed. Until the papers get signed, we're not taking any steps forward. We're not going to presume what is going to happen until we know what will happen. Okay, so we'll move along then. We have the Borough Manager's report. Brittany Foreman.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good evening to everyone. I do not have a report this evening.
Does any member of council have any questions or comments for our manager at this time? Hearing none, we'll move along then. Engineers report, Mr. Mattson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a few things to report tonight. One, thanks to the neighbors on First Street and over at Third Street for the patience with the installation of the vortex systems. The installations are substantially complete. There was a crane in the neighborhood for a few days. There were, at one point on March 6th, I believe, by my count, there were more construction workers than squirrels in Media Borough. And there still are. So then we also have the Pico work and the Aqua work. So again, thanks to the patience for all of our friends and residents over at the State Street District again. So hopefully we will have Pico in and out, and then for Dining Under the Stars, the rest of the events, we'll have the borough back to good working order. But again, continued patience while we're under construction. So unless there's any other questions, that concludes my report.
Does any member of council have any questions or comments for our engineer?
Sorry, Kevin, when is the work going to be completed on State Street? Do we have an ETA on that?
Again, they're moving quickly.
Yeah.
Again, so I'll check. I don't want to say something that's not completely on the mark, but they did give us a schedule.
Okay.
And they've been checking on this. I'll check, and if you don't mind, later in the meeting, I'll get back to you with the answer.
No rush. Thank you.
I certainly have a question. I'm going to ask the question. So you've made a count. How many squirrels are there in Media Borough?
Less than the construction worker.
Well, I feel like they're going to start having babies soon, so
They will be,
Like-
yeah. Their lives in being.
tell them now before they get.
All right then. Now we truly a quantitative man. We'll move along then to the solicitor's report. Mr. Scott.
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't to report tonight.
Does any member of council have any questions or comments for our solicitor at this time? Hearing none, we'll move along to the mayor's report.
Okay,
Mayor McMahon.
thank you. Last month we had 670 complaints. I'm going to read a couple of them. Let's see, vandalism 28, that's up. There were 18 drug abuse possessions, I guess you would say. Driving under the influence, there were 21, 23 drunkenness, and disorderly conduct, 95. So pretty high number for 1 month. Matt Egan wanted me to read this tonight, and that is just to remind people. There's an attempted burglary that occurred on Manchester Avenue between State Street and Front Street. The Media Police were made aware of 2 suspicious males that had attempted to gain entrance into the residence. The males were not on the location when the police were called. Officers followed up and found a video from the homeowner and surrounded residences that show that 2 males used a ladder and attempted to gain an entrance into the house. The entry was not made during this incident. This incident shows the importance for residents to call the police when they see anybody that's suspicious in their neighborhood. So don't be afraid to call the police. So I also have a proclamation. I'm going to read it from up there.
I believe you have a couple of proclamations tonight.
Yes, but they didn't show up. I'll read it. You like proclamations, don't you?
Yes, very much.
Okay, the first proclamation is proclamations for the Pennsylvania 811 Safe Digging Month. Has anybody ever heard of it? I know you can't wait for this. Whereas the month of April 2023 recognized as Pennsylvania 811 Safe Digging Month, and the initiative sponsored by the Pennsylvania 811, a utility notification and information center with over 50 years of continuous service to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania 811 received over 1 million vaccination notifications. I think I said that right. In 2022, and transmitted approximately 6.8 million notifications to their member faculties, etc. Whereas when contacting 811 at least 3 business days before digging homeowner and of contractor is connected to a unique service and notifies the appropriate underground utility operators and the municipality in which it would work and be performed. I'm going to skip down to the bottom. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Media Borough Council, in support of the Pennsylvania Underground Utility Line Protection Law, PA Act 287 of 1974, as amended, we do hereby proclaim April 23rd, 2023, Pennsylvania 811 Safe Digging Month, and encourage all Pennsylvanians to visit the Pennsylvania 811 website for more information. Next time, have them come down here. Okay. No, I'm not going.
Dig somebody up.
Yeah. Okay, this proclamation is Transgender Day of Visibility. Whereas the Borough of Media fosters the value and importance of diversity among people who live, work, and visit without acknowledging that they are cut across ethnic, cultural, racial, gender, identity, and sexual orientation boundaries. And whereas the Borough of Media welcomes all people who live, work, and visit here, regardless of the national origin, color, race, religion, age, sexual orientation, or gender identity. And whereas the Borough of Media is committed to diversity, social justice, equality, mutual respect as fundamental aspect maintaining the health of the community. And whereas celebrating diversity of families, history, and pride builds understanding, dependability, and strengthens all communities. And whereas the Borough of Media celebrates and recognizes the many accomplishments and contributions of its residents who identify themselves as members of the transgender community. And whereas while we as a society are largely slowly embracing new definitions of sexual and gender, we must acknowledge that the needs for the education and awareness remains vital to end the discrimination and prejudice. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Media Borough Council recognizes March 31st, 2023 as Transgender Day of Visibility and encourages everyone to join in the celebration and reaffirm our commitment to diversity, equality, and mutual respect in our community. We honor transgender people who are fighting for freedom, equality, dignity, and respect. We also celebrate the parents, teachers, and coaches, doctors, and other allies who affirm the identities of their transgender children and help these young people reach their potential. So be it. Thank you. Completes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Does any member of council have any questions or comments for the mayor at this time?
I'd like to thank you, Mayor. I know there are members of our community and many of our homes, actually, who feel alone and not a part of the community. And being in media has always been, for me and my family and anyone I know, just a magnificent, welcoming place. And this is this is testament to it. Thank you.
And thank you, Councilmember Pakoff, for your efforts in this regard. We'll move along then to the council committee reports. We'll start from my right to my left. We'll begin with Councilperson Paul Robinson.
Good evening. Welcome to the March council meeting. I'll be relatively brief, as I do every single month. I talk about the Media Fire Company and encourage any resident and or member of our media community that would be interested in serving our fire department, either as a firefighter and or on the administrative side of the company. Please reach out to the chief. He can use, they can use all the help they can get nowadays. So if you have the free time and the desire, please reach out to our chief, and they'll be very happy to put you all to work. With regards to agenda items, I have two on the agenda this evening. The first is truly a housekeeping matter. It is, I would like to make a motion that we enter into an agreement with XL Elevator and Escalator Company for the maintenance of our ADA elevator that is located here in the community center, as well as our main elevator located in the Borough Hall. It's one of these things, you got to make sure you take care of these things, or we end up in big problems. So really with that, I just make a motion that we enter into the agreement with XL Elevator and Escalator Company.
Motion's been made. Is there a second on the motion?
Second.
Motion's been made, has been seconded. Is there any discussion concerning the motion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor into entering the maintenance service agreements with XL for elevator maintenance concerning the elevator in our in Borough Hall, please say aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes unanimously.
Great. Thank you very much. And next on my agenda is Resolution 2023-13. This is for emergency stormwater work on North Providence Road. I too have a big long resolution that I will not read, but what I'll simply say is, for those that know, it's basically where Rita's water ice is. There was a stormwater inlet that we had on our list to do maintenance on, and we started to have some serious issues with regards to it. And when I mean by serious issues, the water was not going into the stormwater inlet as it should, causing significant puddling, and to the fact that we were concerned that traffic would start to go out onto oncoming traffic. So with that, we decided that we needed to get the work done immediately. So I would make a motion, and am I off base on what was, okay, the engineer gave me thumbs up, so he did not mess up with what we're doing. But this resolution was to approve Steve Batelli Construction and Excavation from Glen Mills to do this emergency work at a capped cost of $72,000. So I would make a motion that we approve Resolution 2023-13.
Is there a second on the motion?
Second.
There is. Is there any discussion concerning the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving Resolution 2023-13 with regard to the performance of emergency stormwater work on North Providence, in year two, I guess would be...
It's North Franklin, or Franklin, or West Franklin.
West Franklin, okay. In an amount not to exceed $72,000 to Steve Patelli. Please say aye.
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 Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes unanimously.
And I know the mayor always gets all the credit for being the Irishman in the room. I myself am Irish, so I just want to wish everyone a happy St. Patrick's Day.
I'm 15% Irish.
There we go. That concludes my report, Mr. President.
And tomorrow we're 100% Irish.
We're all 100%
I
Irish.
have a t-shirt that says that.
All right, any questions for Councilperson Robinson at this time? Hearing none, we'll move along then to Personnel and the Historic Architecture Review Board. We have Councilperson Joy Washington.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do not have a report tonight.
Does any member of council have any questions or comments for Councilperson Washington? Seeing that there are none, we'll move along then to Finance and Media Business Authority and Councilperson and Vice President Elizabeth Romaine.
Thank you, President Hall. This month, we have the payment of bills for January for the general fund, $286,093.39. For the rec fund, $1,368.78. No bills for the liquid fuels fund, and for the capital fund, $301,198 $588,660.53 for a total of $588,660.70. So I would like to make a motion that we ratify the payment of January bills.
Second.
Motion's been made, it has been seconded. Is there any discussion concerning the motion? Hearing no call for discussion, all in favor of payment of bills. Is it January?
February.
February, right?
Should I
redo
this?
Okay, so, redo. Council, I'd like to make a motion that we ratify the payment of bills for February.
Is there a second on the motion?
Second.
There is. Any discussion concerning that motion? Hearing no call for discussion, I'll call the question. All those in favor of approving the payment of, or ratifying payment of the borough's bills from this past month in the amount of $588,660.70 in aggregate, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. My second agenda item is the hiring of Marquette Associates to be the outsourced chief investment officer services for our pension plan. We reviewed this at workshop a few weeks ago. This would be converting the management of our pension plan to Marquette Associates. This is a big win for our employees that are in a pension plan. We believe that this is the right type of investment philosophy that we want to be embracing. So I make a motion that we approve the hiring of Marquette Associates for outsourced chief investment officer services for pension plan.
Is there a second on the motion?
Second.
There is. Is there any questions or comments concerning the motion?
Mr. President, I have to abstain.
Understood. I'll call the question. All those in favor of hiring Marquette Associates for the outsourced chief investment officer services for our pension plan, please say aye.
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 Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes unanimously with one abstention.
Could you just state why you're abstaining?
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I am a senior managing consultant for PFM AM, who was also one of the candidates that were interviewed for the chief investment officer.
Great. The third item on my agenda is, I'm going to lean a little bit on Brittany here, but it is concerning our cybersecurity enhancements. So we as a borough do engage in services to make sure that our digital footprint, all of our files are secure. Our liability insurance is running out at the end of the month, and what we found is we really need additional security assurances. This is the direction the industry is going, that we need a little bit more. Our IT folks and our admins have been working together to understand like what would an increased enhancement look like, what would the increased liability look like. Unfortunately, it wasn't ready by workshop, so we are discussing it tonight. This would be an incremental cost of around $55,000. This was unbudgeted for the 2023 budget. However, due to basically not touching our snow budget, vacancies in some staffing in the police with the rec board, the inspector positions, we believe we can find the $55,000 and still present a balanced budget by mid-year. So at Finance Committee, we discussed it earlier this week. So this is something that if we approve this proposal, we can start to put together all the pieces to basically be eligible for the additional liability for cybersecurity. So I would like to make a motion that we approve the proposal from GO2 cybersecurity for cybersecurity enhancements, excuse me.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made, it has been seconded. Is there any questions or comments?
I guess really with comments.
Sorry, go ahead.
You'll be much more technical than me. I'll be the simple side. You can be the technical side.
It's not a technical question. It's more of a timing question. Liz, I know you said liability runs out at the end of this month. Does this have to be passed this month for us to be, or can it wait because we have not seen it or reviewed it?
Well, yes, it does. So basically, we can extend our current services for about 60 days. That would, you know what, you explain it.
That was a question that, it was an option that we were perusing, or I shouldn't say exploring, but Pat said that is not the case. So, so yes, it does. If we were to wanted to maintain coverage or get coverage for the next renewal year, the enhancements have to be in place. And this is a slightly different than last year. Basically, one thing I just want to add to Councilwoman Romaine's comments, which she did a very good job, was explaining that was that the hackers get better every year, and the goalpost keeps changing in terms of what we have to do to protect ourselves. And so we've had a cyber security insurance for at least 8 years, maybe 10 years, at least 8 years. And so we had it last year as well, but this go round, when we were getting ready for the renewals, we found out that we had to have different items of protection in order to be considered for insurance coverage. But yes, it does need to be in place. Also last year, they allowed us to sign on and get insurance, even though we were in the process of implementing it. They won't do that. The insurance carriers are just much stricter this year on cyber security, so they won't even allow us to do that. So it has to get done in the next few weeks.
Okay, great. That was just a timing question. Is this the kind of thing that when the budget comes up, finance should be aware of for next year to at least know that there's a potential for this?
I think moving forward, it's going to be a significant line item that we're just going to have to recognize. It's like any other of our liability insurances. What has occurred, and I've seen it within the industry, government industry, is within the last 24 months, it's as we joke, the bad guys have gotten significantly better, and they have they've gotten into some major municipalities, counties within the Commonwealth, and literally have held large counties at hostage. And the insurance companies basically said, we're not playing around anymore. You either try to up the game significantly, as Brittany said. The goalpost has changed, and there really are no choices. Hopefully, the bad guys won't be as bad anymore, and we'll be able to stop this. But it has truly become an epidemic, and we in the Southeast have a tendency to be more sophisticated. There are other communities that aren't anywhere near where we are, and they have giant leaps where literally they're not going to be able to have any communications because insurance companies are, without a doubt, putting their thumb on all of us and saying, step up, because they're tired of coughing up, multi-$100,000 payoffs, to make sure that you know better than I do. It's your bailiwick. No, it's a shame, but once again, it's usually the bad guys are winning right now.
But yeah, Mark, I think when it comes to budgeting, we'll take
I just want
a little bit of a closer look at that line. I just want to make sure we're doing all due diligence here and knowing what's going on and why it's happening. And thank you for the explanation, Paul. I appreciate it. Great.
Well, any other questions or comments from council members? Seeing that there are none, all those in favor of approving the proposal from, is it Go-To? Go-To for cybersecurity enhancements for the borough, as outlined by Vice President Romaine, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes unanimously.
And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Does any member of council have any questions or comments for Vice President Romaine at this time? Seeing that there are none, we'll move along to community development. That's my report under the agenda. I have one announcement. That is for those who are interested in following the progress of the hybrid form-based zoning project. Are we on track, Brittany, for next month to begin to discuss it at workshop and have it on our agenda for approval next month?
Yes.
Okay.
There is a special hearing, a public hearing that has to happen in there before the adoption in various phases of notices that we have to make sure we hit according to law. And just the timing of that special public hearing is still up in the air, but we're still planning moving forward. Actually, the Delaware County Planning Commission had reviewed it over the last month and it's on their agenda for tonight. So we should be getting all those comments back and wrapping up all that process by our legislative session in April.
But the plan is for next month that we will have this on our agenda.
Yes.
Okay, so for those who have been following the progress of this, please take please look at our agendas when they are published, see if that is on there, because it could be that this coming month we will be having holding a vote as to whether or not to adopt the hybrid form-based zoning plan amendments. I have a few items that require action tonight. The first is a land development application. We haven't had one of those in, I think, over a year, and lo and behold, we have one tonight. It's listed under agenda as 0 Brook Street, which is an odd address, but it's an odd location. For those of you who don't know where Brook Street is, Brook Street and Painter Streets are essentially our industrial district. If you are down on the west side of town and you are near the West End Flats, West End Flats sits at the intersection of Brook Street and Baltimore Avenue. And if you were to go back there, you would soon find yourself amid a welter of auto body shops, car repair shops, a few other types of industry-related businesses, a couple of residences, and you'll also see right behind the West End Flats building, probably, I think it is the largest industry in Media Borough. It's called Acromax, and they make sealants. Actually, if you ever have a chance, you can walk down there and take a look at the building. It's quite lovely in its own way. It's very industrial, but it has some interesting architectural features. Next to it, for those of you who are familiar with the area, there is essentially an empty lot. It is filled with broken concrete, semi-abandoned vehicles, a tumbleweed every now and then. That is 0 Brook Street, that open lot. The owners of Acromax would like to expand their business. They're doing quite well. And they would like to build another building on that currently empty lot. That is what the land development proposal is for. It'll be a single-story building. It is in all ways zoning compliant. It will be an industrial building, but that's why we have an industrial district. So tonight we have this land development before us, and I actually have some news because this month was one of those odd months where council met before the Planning Commission. Usually it's the other way around. Planning will meet before council, and then I can report to council at workshop what planning's thoughts were about a particular project. This was one of the months we couldn't do that because the timing was switched around. Planning heard the application, and it was their recommendation to council unanimously that we approve the project, that we grant 2 waivers that are being requested, and that the applicant comply with the borough engineer's review letter concerning the project. The 2 waivers that are being requested involve preliminary final and also sidewalks. The waiver for preliminary final is routinely given where our engineer tells us that the information that is on the plan that was submitted is a final plan. And Mr. Mattson, in your judgment, is the plan that has been submitted a final plan?
Yeah, so again, in our code, there's a litany of things under preliminary plan requirements and then final, and this plan contained everything for both preliminary and final, so yes.
So that's the one waiver. The other waiver is with regard to sidewalks. They're required under our code to build a sidewalk in the front of their property. There is no sidewalk at present. There's really much of anything that is there at present time. And the applicant would like not to be required to put a sidewalk in front of the building. The reasoning is, and what they're willing to do is to pay a fee in lieu of building the sidewalk, and that money could then be used towards building sidewalks elsewhere in the borough. They will put a gutter and curbing in, if I remember correctly. Is that so, Mr. Lynn?
That's correct.
And that will help direct storm water down the street so it doesn't flow over the property. But at the present time, there's no sidewalk there, and there's nothing that would hook up to. I mean, there's a sidewalk along the side of West End Walk, and that ends at the end of, I'm sorry, West End Flats, and that ends at West End Flats, and then it's sort of no man's land in terms of pedestrians. There's nowhere to walk, and then beyond this property, 0 Brook Street, there is no sidewalk for the rest of Brook Street, and when you make the right turn onto Painter Street, there's no sidewalk there either. There is sidewalk on the other side by is it Dean Keys, and there also is there's also a residence on that side. So I think the thought process was that if there is to be a sidewalk there, it would make more sense that it be on the west side of the street as opposed to the east side of the street, because you can link it up, and there actually are some residences on the east side of the street. And even if you go down even further past the curb down Painter Street, there's one, I believe at least one resident there. So that seemed to make sense to the Planning Commission. It makes sense to me as well that we accept a fee in lieu as opposed to requiring a sidewalk, which frankly there is very little use for at the present time. So that's the motion, that we approve the land development, and that we grant those 2 waivers. 1, with regard to sidewalk, accepting a fee in lieu, and 2, that we waive the requirement, or we waive that there be a preliminary plan, since it already is a final plan in the judgment of our engineer.
All right, a motion has been made. Is there a second?
I will second.
Second has been made. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes unanimously.
Item number 3 is a housekeeping matter. It is a grant of money. I think it's $650,000 that would go towards the 3rd Street project. And this motion will keep that money in play. It's part of the funds that we have potentially available to us to put towards that project. If we fail to authorize a request for a 12-month extension, we lose that money. We don't wish to lose that money. This does not obligate us to spend the money. It just means that that money will be available to us for the next 12 months. So I make it in the form of a motion. We authorize a request for the 12-month extension for the RAC-B grant monies.
I will second that.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? The motion is passed.
Item number 4 is related to our wayfinding project. I think everybody who lives in Media and has visited Media over the past half year or so has seen a number of signs go up around town. They are part of a coordinated project to improve the signage throughout the town to make our community more easily accessible and navigable, especially to those who are not particularly familiar with its unique road system. And it is coming in quite nicely. There have been several requests so far for changes to be made to the original contract, and that's something that we find in almost any major project. The best of plans, when they meet the reality in the field, I think "in the field" is the term that our engineer uses, you find that you need to change up a little bit, because what you thought you could put what you thought you could put somewhere might not be what you can put in that place. So you've got to change things up in order to move the project forward. This is the 5th change order to this project, which, as these projects go, is not out of the realm of what we ordinarily see. It involves 2 things. One, the original plan called for fiber banners to be placed along poles along State Street and some of the side streets. We have found that we've decided that we're going to change the fiber to something a little bit more solid. I don't know what the material is, Mr. Mattson.
It's aluminum.
Aluminum, okay, which is a little bit more solid than the fiber. And also to increase the number, it's additional 25. So that's one item on this change order. The other is a change in the design of some of the gateway monuments. We're just changing the color of some of the mosaic tiles, and that's $750. Even with these two change orders, we are still underneath the overall project budget. So these seem to be reasonable, and these seem to be the types of change orders that we expect to see in a project this large, and they will enhance the project. So I move that we approve wayfinding change order number 5.
I'll second that.
All right, a second has been made. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes unanimously.
And item number 5 involves software. So I'm not the best placed person to talk about the software. God knows I have my troubles. But this is software called Munilogic, and it is software that we use every day here in the borough, particularly by our code enforcement department. This is a way that we track properties through the borough, changes that have been made, enforcement actions, permits that have been applied for. It makes things a lot more efficient, and it's something that has really helped the efficiency of our department. As with all software, changes come along, and in order to be current, you have to have those changes or those revisions added to the software, so that the software continues to work well. So this year, the cost of that advanced or that enhanced software is $9,500. So I make a motion that we approve the Munilogic contract for $9,500 so that we can bring the software up to snuff.
$9,600.
Oh, okay, $9,600. I amend my motion to $9,600.
All right, a second has been made. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. Any questions or comments for President Hall?
All right, thank you. We'll move along then. Public Safety, Recreation, and Civil Service Commission, Councilperson Kevin Boyer.
Thank you, Mr. President. A couple announcements, one from Rec, that we will be doing our annual Easter party. I used to call it Lunch with Easter Buddy, but we call it different things. But that is Saturday, April the 8th, beginning at 11 o'clock, and that will be as usual with refreshments and Easter Bunny, and hopefully, I think the chief's going to bring the fire truck. So come on out, and it's usually a good time. Hopefully the weather will cooperate. And the egg hunt goes off at 11 o'clock and is finished by about 11:04 with tens of thousands of eggs, but it's a big, really good event, so hopefully the weather will cooperate. So the other announcements, the police are still vetting potential candidates for full-time officers, but as we've been talking about, the pool is kind of dried up a whole lot, so it's taking a while for them to vet the candidates that are available. So hopefully we'll get some updates on that, but right now there is nobody there to interview, so we're still kind of working on that part. Relating to public safety, and we'll firm up the details of this next week at our public safety meeting, but one of the things that Chief Gibson had requested at the last safety meeting was for council to meet at the firehouse, and I think we did that in the past years ago, so they'd like to show us some of the new facilities, so maybe over the summer, one of the workshop meetings, we can schedule that at the firehouse, so I'll find out dates that are good for them, but I just wanted to bring that up, that they would like us to do that, and I think we should accommodate them on that part. As far as any agenda items, the first few are mass gathering permits. The number 2 is for the Media Arts Council's Jasper Jam. They started to do this last year in essentially Jasper Street, right behind the building. And they've been holding, I think it comes down to the second Saturday of the month throughout summer. And it goes from 7 in the morning until evening. They have music. It seemed to be a good time last year. So nobody in public safety had any objections about this. So I make a motion that we approve the mass gathering permit for the Media Arts Council's Jasper Jam to be held on second Saturdays in May through October.
Second. Motion's been made and has been seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of approving the mass gathering permit for Media Arts Council for its Jasper Jam series this summer, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Item number 3 is another mass gathering permit. This is for the Delaware County Pride Parade. This is on Saturday, June the 3rd, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., similar to what we've done in past years. They have done all the permits, including the one to shut down Orange Street, so they did their homework, and I move that we approve the mass gathering permit for the Delaware County Pride Parade on Saturday, June 3rd, from 10 a.m. till 2 p.m.
Second.
Motion's been made. It has been seconded. Is there any discussion concerning the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the mass gathering permit application for the Delaware County Pride Parade in March, this coming June 3, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes unanimously.
Okay, number 4, this is for the annual Santa Parade, the holiday parade that is held at the very beginning of the Christmas season. Unfortunately, it was rained out last year. This year, they've gotten smart and presented a rain date. So the parade is designed to happen on Sunday, November 26th, from 1 to 7, and then the rain date is I suppose that's the following Sunday, on December the 3rd. And I make that in the form of a motion.
Second.
Motion's been made. It has been seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the mass gathering permit application for the Holiday Santa Parade and Fun Run Block Party to be held either on November 26th or, should there be rain, maybe even snow, December 3rd, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes unanimously.
And I'm happy to ask us to pass resolution number 5, which is the appointment of Kelly Dixon to the Rec Board for a term expiring on December 31st, 2026. Kelly attended the Rec meeting last Tuesday, is very enthusiastic, and we certainly would welcome her on board. So I move that we pass resolution 20-23-14 to appoint Kelly Dixon to the Rec Board.
Second.
Motion has been made. It has been seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving Resolution 2023-14, which will appoint Kelly Dixon to our Rec Board for a term that will expire December 31, 2026, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. This is not an action item, but I want to thank my colleague Lisa Gelman for staying on Rec. Otherwise, I'd be asking to approve her resignation. But since we're down a few members and we have some events coming up like Easter that require lots of help, and Lisa's family pretty much helps, so we're not letting Lisa resign from the Rec Board as of yet. So she's going to stay on until we get some more people on board. Hopefully that'll happen soon.
My pleasure.
And my last resolution, when we were at workshop earlier this month, Jim Jeffrey presented some information about the emergency management plan, where should there be a catastrophe like a wind event or something where people are put out of their homes, that we can use resources in the borough like the community center to be able to help out. So that's what the resolution 2023-15 amounts to. I move that we approve that resolution to readopt the emergency management plan.
Second.
Motion has been made. It has been seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving Resolution 2023-15, which will readopt the Borough Emergency Management Plan, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. And I want to conclude my report to remind everyone, the mayor reminded you earlier to be careful about your home and so on. Remember also the other part of that is scams. You know, remember our residents, the police will never call you and ask you for money. And if you have any doubt about anything that you seems to be illegitimate, please call the police. There's nothing too small for them to handle on that. So that was my advice. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Does any member of council have any comments or questions for Councilperson Boyer? Hearing none, we'll move along to library. Councilperson Lisa Gelman.
Thank you, President. Only to say that the library is planning a celebration to mark your calendars for June 3rd, and that the library has received bids for the pollinated garden, and they are awaiting the next steps.
Excellent.
That's my report.
Excellent. Any questions or comments for Councilperson Gelman?
I have actually it's a question for Mr. Scott.
Yeah.
The bids for the pollinator garden, do they need to come to council, or library can just?
No, they have their own board, so they
Got
make
it.
their
Okay.
own contracts. Yeah.
Thank you. That's my question.
Lisa, is the library accepting books for the next book sale?
Yes, they are.
Yes.
Do they take textbooks?
I don't think they not, yeah.
Yeah, actually-
I don't say that, I don't think they'd say
There's some
that.
big chunky
If you go on, if you go on the webpage, it says what they do and do not
Okay,
take. And
so I
I'm pretty
wasn't
sure
sure.
they say they take textbooks, but only if they're within the last like X amount of years.
Okay, all right, I'll check that, because I have a trunk full of them right now, so.
Wow.
In his spare time, Councilperson Boyer is a professor over at Wyden.
And you accumulate a lot of books in 35 years. So it's time to make room for me in my office instead of my books, so.
All right, any other questions or comments for Councilperson Lisa Gelman? Hearing none, we'll move along then to Councilperson Mark Pakoff, Environmental Advisory Council and the Shade Tree Commission.
Yes, hello, good evening. I had a whole list of things to share and I can't seem to find it now. The first announcement, Shade Tree, I attended the first Shade Tree meeting earlier this month, right before workshop. They have a tremendous event coming up March 29th. That is 2 weeks from yesterday at the community center right over there. Ask an Arborist. Jason Lubar, Associate Director of Urban Forestry at the Morris Arboretum of the University of Pennsylvania, will be speaking, talking about the value of urban forests, and you can bring any questions about tree care. You know, Shade Tree has a lot of exciting things going on. I'm going to, again, try to find what I had up here. They are looking at an ordinance, to develop an ordinance for the sidewalks and protection of the tree root systems. That's become a big issue for anyone that's replacing a sidewalk or digging into the sidewalk. That's something that Mike Green has been very supportive with. He's found some language for the Shade Tree Commission. He's a tremendous asset for that group as well. And they're also looking at an ordinance regarding any digging that would go on as far as protecting the root systems of the trees. EAC met earlier this month. They had several things. Let me track that one down because I have that for sure. I'm sorry about that. I did have it and I don't know what happened to it. All right, give me a moment. That's not it. Just in reference to Skip Shuta's message earlier, the CCA representative, I was talking with Brittany about timing for that, and since we're having our form-based zoning in April, he will be coming on Thursday, May 4th for the workshop. That's the plan as of now. So if you want to mark your calendars, that's a day where you'll be able to learn more about that. Council will be able to ask all the questions that they need. Give me 1 second here. I don't know what happened to that. Alrighty. There we go. At the EAC meeting last Thursday, several important things took place. We're having a light pollution article placed into the newsletter that may lead to an updated light ordinance recommendation coming from the EAC. The CCA, as I mentioned, will be presented in May. There was an update on the plastic bag and straw ordinance. What we're understanding and finding is that the bags are taking hold. I've been to 2 establishments and was handed a straw both times. So that education needs to continue before we start enforcing that come July. And again, that's something that's been communicated to our resource officer who's going to be checking, Lori, I believe. Lori Devlin. There was a discussion of electric vehicle infrastructure as well. And they will be looking at grants and talking to Karen Tossig-Lux. They're targeting particular grants that may run out of money. We can probably expect some of that coming up in the next couple of weeks and months. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Does any member of council have any questions or comments for Councilperson Pakoff? Seeing that we do not have any, we'll move out of the report section of the agenda. And Karen Rapino, have we received any public comment, emails, since the start of tonight's meeting?
No, we haven't.
All right. Do you have any persons present who wish to address council at this time? If so, please come to the microphone, tell us who you are, where you live, and what's on your mind. We do not have any takers. We will have executive session this evening. We'll be discussing a potential litigation matter. Do I hear a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Mr. President, before the adjournment, there was a question open earlier, and it was about the State Street project with PICO. And again, the tentative timetable for the construction completion on State Street.
Why don't you bring that microphone closer to her?
Again, so we did receive, for the PICO construction, which is all throughout town at the moment, there's a substantial portion of it happening at the moment on State Street. And again, there are many, many businesses and buildings that are affected by it. The tentative report that we got back from the contractor says completion will be done in July. However, the main installation will be happening relatively quickly in the next few weeks. But the July timetable, what it also means is they have to tie the services back in. So just like when Aqua came through with the mains, later separate crews came in and tied in the services. So there'll be a larger disturbance and then individual disturbances. However, we're also having a meeting with them, I think at the end of March, to see if we can accelerate their timetable. And again, make sure that we're trying to land dining under the stars. There's a number of things naturally in town. We want to get State Street back in service, before the busy season this summer. So we're meeting with them to see if we can accelerate things. They're bound a little bit by some supply issues, but on the whole, they've been making good progress. So I just wanted to report that their timetable at the moment, which could go up or down, it's just an estimate, is July.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you, Mr. Mattson. I guess to what you're telling us is that for some time, we'll have a number of workers in the borough that will rival the number of squirrels in the borough.
We'll be monitoring the ratio, Mr. President.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes unanimously. Good night, folks.